Hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning to everyone joining us today. Good morning to our special guest for Cafecito con
Morning.
Ate this morning, Toni Leslie. Thank you so much for being with us today. So, if you're joining us for the first time, we are the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, or HACE for short, a national nonprofit organization whose mission is to positively impact the workplace by cultivating the pipeline of diverse talent, providing insight, access, and support to professionals so they can be successful in their careers. My name is Lisandra Jimenez. I'm a current program manager with ASE, and we're very excited to have you join us this morning. So, welcome back to all our veteran viewers of Cafecito con ASE, and welcome to our new viewers as well. We have a special guest with us today from one of our leadership programs who you'll be getting to know in just a little bit. But before we get into our conversation, I want to make sure to give you all some announcements and reminders. So, as a reminder, as you can see from my current background here, our theme for 2023 here at ASE is ASE United, accelerating equity with action and accountability. And so we'd love for you to join us at our National Leadership Summit coming up in April. We're very excited to bring you some great workshops and different activities so you can engage with us and continue in that path to your professional development. Also, we have our ASE Recruitment Series event happening next week on Tuesday, February 28th. We'd love for you to join us for that as well. It's a new year, new opportunities. So it's our monthly recruitment event for you to check out some opportunities with different employers from different industries and learn more about what they have to offer. So we'd love to see you there at 11:30 a.m. Central next week, Tuesday, February 28th. And then our last announcement is currently we have our Mujeres de ASE application open for our Mujeres de ASE program for those leadership professional Latinas that would like to join us. And our application closes this Friday, the 24th. So make sure to keep a lookout for that and apply if you haven't just yet for those Latina professionals joining us today. So we'd love to hear from you and the audience. I already see you all tuning in, letting us know where you're tuning in from all over. We have Chicago, Seattle, Miami, Tennessee. So welcome to everyone joining us. Today we want to focus on the topic of unity as we continue to celebrate Black History Month, not just this month, but all year long, of course. And then one of the ways that we unite our diverse professionals is through our Multicultural Leadership Program, or MCLP for short. So today we have an alum of that program joining us, Toni Leslie. So Toni, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. We're happy to have you.
Thanks, Lisandra. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So good to see you again after our
Yes.
fall 2022 cohort. And so the first thing we like to ask our cafecito guests is always about how do you like your cafecito or your coffee in the morning or your beverage of choice if coffee is not your beverage of choice. So let us know, Toni.
So I'm definitely a tea drinker and I like my tea light and sweet, but I am a iced coffee diehard fan. So in the afternoon, I'm definitely also getting a light and sweet iced coffee. So I'm equal. I'll definitely
Okay,
do
so you
both.
just go back and forth between
Yes.
tea or iced coffee.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm definitely team water for the most part. My dad tried to get me to drink coffee in traditional Cuban fashion when I was little, but that never happened. So typically I have my water or my lemonade in the morning. So for our audience tuning in, definitely let us know how you like your cafecito or your morning beverage of choice as well, and where you're joining us from. So, Toni, as we get into our conversation, as I mentioned, you're an alum of our MCLP program from the fall term. So, for the audience to get to know you a little bit more, can you tell us a little bit about your cultural and professional background?
Sure. I'm actually Jamaican. I was born there, lived there until I was about 12, immigrated, and then lived in Brooklyn up until 2020, moved to Georgia. Then culturally, I want to say it's a work in progress. Being Jamaican, understanding that when I moved here, I learned race. Being Jamaican, our motto is "out of many, one people." There is no race there. No matter what you look like, you're simply Jamaican. So I'll definitely say my culture continues to grow and adapt to those around me. And doing the program with HACE last year definitely added a little bit more to that and who I am.
Thank you for sharing. So, as a fellow Caribbean peer myself,
Hmm.
definitely understand that. So, living on an island myself, I definitely understand the feeling like, well, I'm just Cuban. And when I
Right.
came to the United States, it was like, oh, now I'm Latina, or,
Hmm.
what does my cultural background look like in a different dynamic and in a different, population and environment, right? What about a little bit of your professional background, Tony?
So I started my career as a paralegal. I'm not going to tell you how long ago because, then that leads to other questions. But I was a paralegal and then I moved into compliance and audit. And then I worked at a Japanese trust bank for a little bit doing high yield syndicated loan closings. And it brought me right back here. So now I am director of compliance at JLL. And it's a little bit of everything because I started at JLL as a contracts manager. So my career has been, I want to say, the same three things, just in a different way over and over again. I like that, but also I'm always looking to learn new things. And they add to the things that I'm like those three core things that I do over and over again. And I think one of the things that I try to tell, especially the people that I manage, is not because you or do something well means you should always do it. Try something new, shift out a little bit. I don't like contracts. Compliance is a stressful environment, but I also love it. I love the knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. It's black and white, it's on paper, it's words. There is no interpretation to that. It's either we can do it or we can't do it. So I definitely like that part, but it's always interesting to see how people take things that are black and white and make them work. So that is definitely been, I think, the thing that keeps me here in this space for sure.
So it sounds like you've been able to kind of reinvent yourself a little bit, doing
A
different
little bit.
things within that same space, right?
Definitely, yeah. Which is good. So, we always want to stick with what we're comfortable with, but it's always good to find ways to, make them a little bit more colorful as well. So I'm definitely comfortable with being by myself and reading and highlighting and making notes, but it's good to definitely in the role I am now to see how the people on the ground take the same thing that I'm looking at and really like put it into facility management or project development or
See it
making
come.
sure the lights come on. Right. So that has definitely been interested in this space.
So I also hear that you're currently working on a research study. So
I
can you tell me
am.
a bit more about that?
Sure. So I'm currently in the dissertation phase of my doctorate in education, and I am doing a study to understand how employee resource groups impact, or if it does, employee engagement and career satisfaction. I think employee resource groups are a great tool. I do think, though, that they're underutilized or we're not using them the best way that we can. But before we can make any of those decisions, as you know, Lizandra, because you're always here, also here with me, is that we have to get the research. We have to ask the people who are in the groups and doing the things, does this work for you? Does this help you? What will be better? So that's what I'm doing now. And I really hope that we get some great information from it that can really just go back out and help a lot of people. We want change, and first we have to understand what the problem is before we can get that change.
That's awesome, Tony. Absolutely. We do a lot of work here at ASE with ERG groups. We have an ERG symposium events that happens almost on an annual basis. And so we definitely like to look at what are those best practices? How are
Mhm.
they really benefiting employees? How can they function and maximize their time better? And definitely on the research side, as a fellow doctor of education peer with you, I definitely get that struggle of diving deep into that research, being able to find those participants, and also considering, what are the factors that you should take a look at
Yeah.
that are really impacting the workplace currently. So for our ASA community tuning in, keep a lookout for as Toni continues to work on her studies. You'll definitely want to get involved. So feel free to connect with her on LinkedIn if you're interested, as she in the future recruits some participants for her study as well. So definitely see some love in the chat here for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations
Thank you.
your props. So saying hello from fellow folks from New York as well to your background. So definitely sharing that love with you. Continue to engage with us in the chat and start to think about what questions you may have for Toni as well. So, to hear more about your experience with our Multicultural Leadership Program, can you tell us how do you feel that the program has helped you move more towards achieving those personal and professional goals for you, Toni?
So I will start it by saying this. I've taken a lot of leadership programs. The one with HACE was the best, hands down, and not because I'm here, but honestly, after the first session, I called my manager and was like, I don't know what everyone else is doing wrong, but I could definitely tell you what HACE is doing right. If there was just a level of engagement, I tend to be more of an introvert, but the engagement was so natural and easy, and everyone would tell a story and everyone would just be in the background nodding their head like, yes, exactly that same experience. So it wasn't necessarily like, we had a schedule that we had to stick to and there were things to learn and you had to do, there was a checklist, but the natural flow through that checklist was inspiring. And I went back and I was like, everyone needs to take this. I don't know what I want you to get from it, but I want you to have the experience of what an actual leadership program should look like. You should be connecting with other leaders and just understanding that leaders are humans. None of us are perfect. We all have a long, long way to go. But I think what I took most from that program was just going back to the roots and just saying, first, I have to work on me. To be a good leader, I have to be a good person. To be a good person, I have to do the work. That program made us do the work. There were definitely some weeks we were all just sitting there like, we feel personally attacked by this, by this
In a
information.
positive way.
Yes, the accuracy of this. Like, I should be offended, but I know it's all true. So if nothing, that program was just truth, honest. It was, I don't want to say perfection because, you guys get better every year, but if anyone can take it, I've definitely been throwing it around like everyone should probably take that. We should make it mandatory. Everyone should go through the program and just get back to who you are as a person and just really do the work. I mean, I shared the personality assessment with my manager and she read it and she called me and she was like, this sounds like this person knows you really well. And I was like, yes, that is exactly how I felt when I read it. And then doing the one-on-one coaching and just being able to talk to the things. And I don't know, it was just nothing was a strike against you. All your opportunities were just areas for you to adjust or learn something different or learn how to adapt to another person. So it was just week after week after growth, and then meeting new people and hearing the stories are the same no matter where we are, where we come from. We're all the same person, just different experiences. That's it.
That's great to hear, Toni. We definitely pride ourselves in creating that community of support within our leadership program. So, our MCLP program is no exception to that.
Hmm.
But definitely the fact that you're able to engage, with other professionals from other backgrounds, other industries. And I'm sure you could attest to our program leads as well. They
Yes.
did a great job creating that community. So, shout out to LB and
Uh,
Sis, our
yes.
program leads for the fall, because it definitely makes a difference. How are you facilitating that environment? And like you mentioned, being able to share and feel comfortable that you're sharing those experiences with others that have had those similar experiences than you, and then trying to find, putting it back on our audience and our participants to say, well, here's an issue. What's
Hmm.
to this issue that you all may have in common? Let's think about that. Let's brainstorm together. So like you said, you have to put in that work. You have to really dive deep into who you are and how you want to approach particular situations. And so that becomes, the foundation of that program, and helps you grow as well.
It's well done.
So I can definitely attest to that experience, having sat in on some of the sessions with you all as well.
Hmm.
So also to think about, you already mentioned a little bit about, like, others should join. If you have the opportunity, go ahead and join the program. But can you tell us, are there any specific things that you feel like multicultural leaders can benefit from our multicultural leadership program?
I would say the personality assessment, and I may be calling it the wrong thing, but what I found insightful and a little terrifying of that was how well it identified what your strengths are, what your opportunities are, but also how to better communicate with other people on the spectrum. Not just telling you, these are what the things you do right, these are the things you're doing wrong, but as a multicultural leader, you have to be able to identify the differences in other people and rise to the occasion. And not just rise to the occasion once, but really adjust how you speak, how you talk, how you communicate, what your expectations are to make sure that they're successful. Because as a leader, if the people around you are not successful, what are you really doing? You're not accomplishing anything. And I think that's the one thing the program did really well, was to help us really identify those things. And then being in the room with people who are of different colors from you. And I know I'm saying a lot of things that a lot of people don't really know, but take the program. But the other colors are in the room, and when you can hear the person of another color say, yes, that actually works for me, and you're like, really? Okay. So if I just did it a little bit differently, we could be more successful. So it's not just learning the things, but it's like real life application in real time. Like, you hear it, you learn it, you're doing it. Another thing the program does well. Just that, I think, was like the biggest thing of the program that really drives home the points of all the thing that's in the syllabus for
That's
us.
great to hear, Tony. So, for our audience members, as you may not know, so if you haven't been involved in our leadership programs before, Tony's referring to our Insights Discovery assessment that we have all our participants complete during the program. And it gives you a sense of what we call color energies.
Mm-hmm.
That you may lead with a particular color and see how others lead with different colors. Excuse me, and how that aligns with one another, how you think about, like you mentioned, behaviors, how to approach certain behaviors, things you may want to change based on the results in that assessment. So it definitely goes a lot deeper than a regular personality
Yes,
assessment that you might have taken. And as you mentioned, you can look at it and say, wow, this is very accurate, like you mentioned, Tony.
very accurate. Mm-hmm.
So a lot more into how you approach things as a leader, how that in turn is viewed by others
Mm-hmm.
externally as well. So it definitely gives you a lot more insight to yourself as a leader, right?
It definitely does. And I think that for me, especially being in compliance where you're not always the person someone wants to see in their inbox or on the other end of the phone, it's definitely helped me to rethink how I do training programs, especially for people who are in the field who don't won't read a 600-page legal document and take anything from it then it was 600 pages. So that definitely helped me to just take a step back and say, okay, I need to be able to speak to my yellows and my blues and my reds and my greens. I need to be able to speak to everyone. So each slide needs to have a picture. It needs to have something that's going to call it out. I need to be able to put the words here that someone else who doesn't take things from visual or smaller words can go back. So it really reshapes how you approach your job, like just who you are as a person. It really does.
Right, you definitely have to consider how others learn best, how
Mm-hmm.
that you may be supervising or managing, how to approach them in a way that's really going to meet their needs and meet them where they're at. So it definitely makes you think differently about not doing things the same way. So as
Yes.
we think about, I always think about that picture that represents like equity versus equality, that has like the boxes of people
Mm-hmm.
standing in different box sizes so they can see the game, in that scenario. But thinking about, others need different tools and maybe different resources to get to a certain point, rather than maybe not having the same starting point at times. So
Yes.
definitely comes back to that imagery in my mind.
It does. And I think we know this as humans. We know that everyone is different. But I think what the program did well was to really put it in a way that we all could understand and just really say it again so we all heard it. Just like, I know you guys know everyone is different because you're different, but everyone is different. Just, just one more time, everyone is different. And then be able to show the differences and really just put it into imagery and words and say this is how we're different, and then having those different people in it really brings the point home. It changes you even though you don't even like consciously know it's changing you. It really does impact you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Toni. We see some more love in the chat about folks thinking about the tools that you learned from the program, seeing it come to life, seeing some folks mentioning that they were selected for our Emerging Latino Leaders program, so another one of our leadership programs. So congratulations to Benny for being selected through your organization. We definitely love to see more folks getting involved in our leadership programs, and keep a lookout for our multicultural leadership program for the springtime coming up. Those applications will be coming up next month. And then, Toni, we typically like to close out our conversation by asking our guests, what are you most hopeful for, or what's a positive story that gives you hope for the year?
What am I most hopeful for besides graduation this year? I think it's just taking all the things I learned last year and being better this year. My team is growing, and a hard lesson last year was realizing that I wasn't a leader as I thought I was. Having to go through the struggles and really just take a step back and say, okay, I'm not meeting you where you are. I need to figure that out. And just really having that tough conversation and saying, what am I not doing well? Am I not using the right words? Am I not using the right tools? And just understand that that's just not a one-time thing. Not because you and someone have a relationship doesn't mean you don't need to, take a pulse, take a beat, and just say, okay, we're doing well, things are going great. Is there something else that we need? I think it's just that getting up every day and being present, being conscious of where you are is something that I'm hopeful, looking forward to for this year, and just seeing what that being present in the moment really does to who I am as a person, as a leader, as everything. Just excited to see how that changes me next year.
Kudos to you, because that's hard, right? Taking a look at yourself and being like,
Difficult.
doing something wrong? Like, how do I shift? What am I doing wrong? Not really knowing
Yes.
where that answer is, right?
Yes.
So definitely being able to just become a more effective leader. Not that you're not doing a good job, but maybe you need to shift, those approaches as we're talking about, depending on those folks that you're leading or that you're interacting with, right? So kudos to you, Toni. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. Keep a lookout for more information about our multicultural leadership program as well. Thank you, Toni, for sharing your experience with us today, and we hope to see you as a guest in our audience members for future cafecitos. So thank you, everyone, and until next time.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one, everyone.